I was in the Army from 1956 to 1976.
Well, we met on a blind date many years ago, like 55 plus years ago, and he just knocked me off my feet.
I was diagnosed June of 2003.
They're a very, very close couple who, as the disease progressed, Dale has taken on more and more of his care.
She feeds me. She cooks for me. And she gets me where I got to go. And she puts Bactine on my scrapes and helps me bathe and dress. She has good taste in shirts. And she puts me to bed at night.
He falls almost every day. I don't think we've had hardly maybe 2 or 3 days that he hasn't fallen, and they're always near falls. Had a terrible fall in the garage and hit his head, and the blood was spewing, and we ended up going to the emergency room.
I've been fortunate. The only thing I've broken is a couple of fingers so far.
To see it is very scary, and you just kind of feel like you're sitting on I feel like I'm sitting on a keg of dynamite.
I think it's normal to have negative feelings when you're dealing with something that's very difficult.
I don't scream, but I talk louder. One day, Jerry said, I said something about, please don't do that. And I didn't think about it, but he said, you didn't ask me that very nice. And I said, well, I said please. He said, but you used please like a four-letter word. I said, I'm sorry.
Many caregivers will mention that they feel guilty that they're not able to do more, or that they feel guilty about their negative emotions. And the first question I ask them is, do they think that they're perfect?
I'm a human being, and I do make mistakes, and good Lord does forgive me, and I have to forgive myself.
As Parkinson's disease progresses, the relationship with their spouse changes a lot.
When you become a caregiver for someone with Parkinson's disease or a serious disease, the number of hats you wear increases, and the frequency with which you wear those hats increases.
I worry about the role change that's happened, and that's just really very difficult.
So an example of that may be that the spouse is now having to manage and take care of all finances, or manage and take care of yard work outside.
Making decisions by myself or discussing it with the kids, because Jerry we're not discussing those kind of things that much anymore.
Caregivers often describe a loss of relationship. And what that really means is just the shared intimacy they've had over years can be really impaired.
That's one of the hardest things that we've lost, is the intimacy we had. But we hug, we kiss. When I go in to get him up in the morning, I always give him a big kiss, and we never go to bed without kissing each other goodnight.
When you have Parkinson's disease, there's so much decline in your facial expression and your gestures that it's often hard to tell what a person with Parkinson's disease is feeling unless they really tell you.
With the masking that comes along with Parkinson's, you can't tell whether he's laughing or not.
So really working hard to communicate about what's going on with them, and asking their spouse about how they're doing is a very helpful thing.
Talk to each other about it. I think you really need to talk about some hard things.
People who feel like they want to be heroes, or that it's their duty to be 24/7, always, typically burn out.
I knew I couldn't do it all, and that's the reason another reason I got help early on, and I also started thinning out my own activities, because I find when I'm trying to do too much that I get really short and I get really tired.
Caregiving is hard on a caregiver. And there has to be some time of relief.
Assessing for caregiver strain, if we want to use that word, is really important for clinicians to do, and it's not always easy to tell. Sometimes it's obvious. They're so stressed and they are so depleted that they can't begin to hide it.
She was talking about something and I just broke down in tears. And so yeah, a couple of times that's happened in the office.
Other times, it's not as obvious, even if you're sensitive to it, because the natural tendency when you're a healthy spouse, is to feel that the real focus should be on the person with the illness.
You do try to be strong, though.
If caregivers seem like they have a lot of strain, I often will refer them to social workers, to psychologists, or other mental health providers for support.
We try to tailor our interventions to meet the person where he or she is. And so one day we may be doing nothing but sitting down and listening and doing supportive counseling, encouraging, and the next day we may be providing a lot of linkage to resources.
The person with Parkinson's disease often feels like all the giving is one direction. And it's so helpful when they feel like they can do something for their spouse who's doing a million different jobs and doing a million different things. And one of the things they can do is to just acknowledge how hard it is for them.
Watching my wife work to keep me going is hard. She's been with me for 55 years and has been through a lot.
I think the second thing is to encourage them to take time for themselves. And if that means somebody else has to come stay with them, or their spouse does that, that's so validating.
Well, hello there, how are you?
How's Jerry doing today?
He's doing pretty good.
Okay.
Oh, so good to see you. Jerry said he didn't really want anybody because he didn't need anybody. And I said, well, I don't know that you do, but I do. And he's really been very open to that.
It's been pretty easy for me. I'm not super self-conscious when I have to be assisted.
She's free to do many of the other things that need to be done in their home.
I've always shopped, major shopping, like once a month or so. We used to go grocery shopping together, and now I go by myself. Mainly I get produce and fresh vegetables and things like that. With two of us, there's not that much of major shopping anymore.
Caregivers who are 24/7 truly need time away.
Oh, I don't know about that. It's a little crazy. I have a group of ladies that they get together on Monday mornings, and I've just started going back, and I try to go to that group almost every Monday, but I can't always make it.
Respite care simply means time away from the duty that you have.
That can occur in the community where the patient with Parkinson's goes to a place where there's trained professionals to help care for the patient. Or there can be people that come into the home and the spouse, the caregiver, can then leave and do things that she feels she needs to attend to.
I think of it as a time sort of to fill up your tank so you can come back and be re-energized to do the job at hand.
There is respite care for the VA, through VA, and like you can have a week. I'm not quite sure, but I'm not ready to go there. I don't think Jerry's quite ready to go there either, so. And I'm hoping I won't have to do that, but I may.
Many people have many built-in supports, either through their church or their family or just their social circle.
Your friends and loved ones want to help you, and that's their way of sharing, and their way of being a part of the friendship, and when you let people help you, it's such a blessing for them and for you.
I think there are also some great caregiver support groups out there for Parkinson's disease.
She has her Bible study group that she meets with.
We both have really strong faith, and that's just been really wonderful. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have that.
Caregiving is just simply hard, and that as a provider, healthcare provider, it's as important to care for the caregiver as it is for the person with Parkinson's disease.
We need to tell caregivers that they're doing a tremendous job, and their job is obviously incredibly important, and that they're a valuable member of the care team.
Many caregivers describe a silver lining of caregiving. They talk about meeting people that they wouldn't have ever met before. They talk about a closeness of relationship because they need each other more.
Life was not perfect, and life does have lots of pain with it. But there's a lot of good that comes out of those things. I've seen it through my life over and over again.
Some people have talked about the personal growth that they themselves have achieved by doing something so difficult and recognizing that not only did they do it, but they did it pretty darn well.